Folks, welcome back to the Freaky Deaky. Tonight we are tossing the clock out the window and diving headfirst into 5 real deal time slips. Moments where regular folks stepped out of their own year and into another. No sci-fi gadgets required. We're talking about the Versailles Incident in France, which is one that we've probably touched on in the past, but we always bring it up. We're finally going to actually cover that. Liverpool's bold street glitches, the Kersey Village mystery, a vanishing hotel in Montélimar. These aren't tall tales. They're backed by witnesses, investigators, and evidence so weird it'll make you wonder if time's just a shaky house of cards waiting to collapse. 2 women strolling Versailles in 1901, suddenly surrounded by 18th century nobles in powdered wigs. A cop in 1996 Liverpool dodging 1950s vans on a street gone retro. 3 kids in 1957 stumbling into a medieval village that shouldn't exist. A hotel vanishing, photos and all, after a night's stay in 79 France. We've got first-hand accounts from stunned teachers, cabbies, and cadets, people who didn't sign up for this. Plus locals and researchers trying to piece it together, all asking, what the hell just happened? Whether you're a believer ready to chase these glitches or a skeptic daring the universe to prove it, you're in the right place. So let's slip through time. Don't say I didn't warn you if you don't come back the same. We'll see you on the inside. You are now entering the realm of the Freaky Deaky. An unsuspecting stop at the crossroads of fantasy and reality, where the frayed edges of make-believe seep into this cookie-cutter white picket world you've been led to believe is far from extraordinary. What you're about to hear are true stories.
Alleged true stories.
Christian, just... okay? Tales of the strange and inexplicable thought only to exist in film and folklore. Although difficult to accept, we do not know everything about this reality. About time or space, what lies beneath the ocean's depths. And try though we might, the unchanging truth remains. There are some things we legitimately cannot explain logically.
This time we recorded, and now I can't remember what it was, and it just happened yesterday.
Wow, some pretty strong stuff they give you, huh?
That's not why my memory's bad. My memory's just, it's not bad like Alzheimer's bad. It's just...
It's forgetful.
I'll remember useless history stuff, or baseball or hockey stuff, but real life, sometimes it just slips.
Speaking of slips, welcome back to the Freaky Deaky. We are getting into slipping through time. Now we're covering a story.
Time keeps up. Oh, sorry.
There you go. Into the future. Yes. The first story we're actually covering in this week's episode is a story that we've referenced numerous times over the last handful of years here, and that's the Versailles time slip.
Funny, I don't remember that.
You will. The second I get into this story, I guarantee you're going to do that. You're going to be like, oh, right. But before we do any of that, folks, welcome back in. If you are new to the show, we ask one thing of you, and that's that you rate this bad boy 5 stars wherever you're listening. It truly does help us get the word out. And if you want to keep seeing these episodes pop up every week, that sure does help us move the needle a bit, you know? And you can find us on social media at Freaky Deaky Pod. I am slowly weaning off commenting on pretty much everything. So if you want to find me, I'm just going to be in the Facebook group at Freaky Deaky Pod. So if you want to talk to me specifically, come post in the Facebook group, join, have a good time, share some stories, share some laughs. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with Christian's 1 or 2 word responses, and I promise you they are dry as fuck.
I'm working on it, but I am a dry person.
He's a dry guy.
It's the Anglophile in me. I like their humor. Don't listen to me.
Anyway, folks, welcome back to the show. Thank you once again for joining us today. As I mentioned previously, we are going to be getting into some time slips, and we have done this in the past, but these are some interesting ones that I don't believe we've actually covered. We've possibly talked about them briefly for a few moments here and there, but we've never actually...
You can get into all the time slips you want. I'm staying here in this timeline.
Are you sure you want to stay in this one?
I have a grandson here.
Yeah. Maybe you have 3 in another one. And
do I have the energy for 3 of them?
I couldn't tell you. You got to go to the other ones and find out.
I think I know I'm perfectly fine with this one. I don't need to add to it. Just for the sake of having...
Just for what, doubling up? Tripling up? Why not? Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it, guys. If you want to support the show, you can donate at thefreakydeaky.com. Help us keep the lights on, become a producer.
I thought we had a new one.
We do. We have multiple ways to support the show. You can buy merch, which is also available at thefreakydeaky.com. You can also spend $9 at holler.baby/thefreakydeaky to get a shout out on this show. Dealer's choice, really. Many ways to support the show. You could also just share it around with your friends and family. That helps us more than you probably know. So thank you for everyone that does that. Huge shout out to the gang, the crew. What do we call them? The Butterscotch Gang?
The Freaks?
Yeah, see, that doesn't really vibe as well, though. Freaks comes off as when you hear the Freaky Deaky and then your listener base is called the Freaks, you're like, ooh, what's this about? Well, that's even worse, I think. I think we settled on the Butterscotch Gang about 8 weeks ago.
Did we?
And
was I consulted at all?
When I say we settled on it, I say what I meant is that I brought it up one time in an episode and it made me laugh so much that I'm like, now I just kind of want the listeners to be called the Butterscotch Gang. That's fine.
I actually do kind of like that one.
But it has a weird ring to it, right? Or like that's memeable, you know?
Feels like the name of the rival gang to the Little Rascals back in the early 1900s.
And what's more fitting than that for what we do here? I ask you. I ask everyone in the audience, what's more fitting than us being the rival to the Little Rascals in the 1900s or whatever Christian said?
Let's go, Spanky. We got to take out the Butterscotch Gang.
Wow.
They're talking about demons again.
Hell yeah. And I can just picture the merchandise already. Guys, it's going to be litty, all right? Are the kids still saying that? No? That's fine.
Did they ever say that?
Hell yeah, dude. Keep up. I can't be the only fresh to death one here on this podcast, you know?
No cap.
No cap. Save the cap for... I can't do the youth thing for more than 8 seconds without wanting to throw up. It's fine. Guys, let's get into this first story, which is the Versailles time slip. A journey through time in the gardens of a palace.
Wait, I know this one.
Wait a second. Yeah.
I can't believe we haven't actually talked about this story other than the references.
Here's the thing. We might have.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember. I know I've heard it in a podcast. I don't know if it was this podcast. I feel like it wasn't. I feel like it was another podcast that I probably no longer listen to.
Sometimes it's hard to keep track.
Well, when you're 252 episodes deep, you're going to forget one or two of them, all right?
Yeah, one of these days we're going to need to get an assistant to keep track of this stuff.
Yeah, that's going to be wonderful. Any local listeners want to come and sit in on the podcast while Christian and I talk about things? You could control the soundboard. I give you free reign of the soundboard. I don't know why I'm staying silent, like I'm expecting someone to be like, yes, me. It's fine. Anyway. In August of 1901, two English women, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, visited the Palace of Versailles in France. What began as an ordinary sightseeing trip soon unraveled into one of the most enduring and controversial cases of alleged time travel in history. Their story would later be published under the pseudonyms Elizabeth Morrison and Frances Lamont in a book titled An Adventure, which hit the shelves in 1911. It described in meticulous detail a surreal and haunting encounter in the gardens of Versailles, an experience the women claimed had transported them more than a century into the past, to the days of the French monarchy. Both women were scholars of high repute. Moberly was the first principal of St. Hugh's College in Oxford, while Jourdain was a respected author and academic, later becoming the college's vice principal. Their background made their account all the more compelling. They weren't prone to fantasy, nor were they likely to chase publicity. In fact, they were initially hesitant to even share their experience publicly, fearing professional ridicule. Is that the helicopter you're talking about? Chasing down whatever meth addicts are getting into trouble now?
I heard it might even be fed.
It might even be fed? Do you think it's like an actual drug bust, like a drug raid?
Mm-hmm. I think they're looking for somebody.
Mass murder.
You can't tell in Alaska. Alaska's weird.
You really do be like that. Sorry for if you hear propeller blades searching for criminals.
We don't normally have... We were talking about it before we started recording. I was like, in California, it was like helicopters all over the place for chases and stuff. Alaska, the helicopters are taking tourists around or surveying oils, things, I guess. I don't know.
We've replaced them with really annoying float planes. How's that? You like that? Because I don't.
They don't bother me too much.
In fact, they were initially hesitant to even share their experience publicly, fearing professional ridicule. Their strange encounter occurred on August 10th, 1901, as they explored the Petit Trianon, a small chateau on the grounds of Versailles. Was there an issue?
No.
Huh?
You got pretty close to that one.
Oh, thanks, man. You got pretty close to a compliment there. It's... Yeah, hey, almost did it. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Once I realized what you were saying, I was waiting for the second word, and I was like, it's good for an American.
Ah, thank you. Yes. They became disoriented while looking for the building and began to feel an impressive, almost unnatural stillness in the air. Moberly would later describe the atmosphere as dreamlike, while Jourdain recalled a sense of gloom and tension. The surroundings appeared oddly muted, the light taking on a flat, unnatural quality as though the entire world had been drained of color and sound. As they continued walking, the two women encountered several people dressed in 18th century clothing. One man wore a cloak and a large, shady hat with a pockmarked face that Moberly found disturbing. Another figure they described looked like a gardener in an old-fashioned green coat. A woman sat sketching on the grass near the Trianon. Is that better?
That is not better.
Trianon.
You were fine. You just didn't have the accent the first time. Stick with that saying.
It's fine. Trianon. Sounds like something else. It's fine. Her attire distinctively antique. Moberly later claimed that the woman had a pale face and wore a large white hat with plenty of light green fabric. Features she believed matched historical portraits of Marie Antoinette. Confused and increasingly unsettled, the women eventually found their way out of the area. Later, as they compared notes, they realized that parts of their shared experience didn't align with the present-day layout of the gardens. Certain paths and buildings they saw during their walk seemed to no longer exist. They also noted that while they were surrounded by people, none of them behaved as though they were part of the modern-day tourist crowd. There was no laughter, no idle chatter, and everything had the feeling of a strange set, yet utterly real. In the years following the incident, Moberly and Jourdain conducted extensive historical research to better understand what they might have witnessed. They discovered that August 10, the day of their visit, was the anniversary of the 1792 storming of the Tuileries Palace. Tuileries. You guys get it. During the French Revolution.
It's not Tuileries.
Probably is, but don't spell it like that if that's what you want me to say.
Oh, you want a different language to spell it exactly how you want it spelled?
The American way. They also found that the area they had walked through had undergone several changes since the 18th century. Paths moved, buildings destroyed or altered, yet their recollections aligned with older maps. Their belief was clear. They had somehow slipped back in time and briefly witnessed Versailles as it had been during the final years of the monarchy. When their book An Adventure was published, it drew significant public interest and a fair amount of skepticism. Critics suggested the women may have simply encountered historical reenactors or been influenced by their own imaginations. Wow.
Reenactors in 1901 or 19...
Yeah, can you imagine?
That wasn't like such a big deal back then.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people did it, but
in the privacy of their own home.
They hadn't really come up with cosplay back then.
Well, you can't really say for sure. You weren't there. Or actually, you could probably say for sure.
Not at this level.
Okay. Others proposed more scientific explanations. Perhaps a shared hallucination, a psychological episode, or misremembered details filtered through confirmation bias. Yes, Folie Deux once again rears its ugly head. By the way, there's never been a single documented case of that.
Folie Deux?
Yeah, not a single documented case. Just a lot of speculation.
I mean, that's what we do.
You know how many times I've heard that, starting with Fall Out Boy and ending right at this moment right here? So many times.
That's what we deal with in this genre, and speculation.
But when I found out that there wasn't a single documented case of this, like 2 months ago, I was like, what? All this time everyone's saying it's Folie Deux. I've never once doubted it. And now I find out, oh, never mind, that's never actually happened.
It's like bilocation.
Sure. Why not trilocation?
That seems impossible. For a human, at least.
Okay. Okie dokie. More misremembered details filtered through confirmation bias. However, these theories don't fully account for the accuracy of their descriptions, especially the details of buildings and garden paths that had vanished long before 1901. Despite the skepticism, many readers found the story chillingly plausible. The women never profited from their account, nor did they seek fame. They held to their version of the events until their deaths, remaining steadfast in their belief that they had genuinely experienced a time slip. The fact that both were academically accomplished and deeply grounded in empirical thinking gave their claims a strange weight, making it harder to dismiss them as mere fantasy or delusion.
Really?
Do you find a problem with that?
Yeah, finish and all. I'm sure we'll talk about my problem soon.
I'm sure we will. Today, the Versailles time slip remains one of the most famous alleged time travel incidents ever recorded. Whether a genuine glitch in time, a psychic imprint on the land, or a shared hallucination, which would be the first documented case of it to ever happen, the experience of Moberly and Jourdain continues to provoke debate, inspire paranormal inquiry, and remind us that sometimes the past may not be as far away as we like to think.
What do you mean by documented case of Folie Deux?
I mean that there's no single, if it is Folie à Deux, I hope I'm not mixing it up with something else because now I seem like an asshole. But I mean that it is speculated, it has been proposed that this is a thing, and it's been even titled as Folie à Deux and other things, but there's not a single documented case of this ever actually happening.
I see. I feel like then it fits right in with our podcast because what we talk about is not really documented.
See,
that's what I was asking him. What do you mean by documentation? If they can say that's not documented, but a ghost sighting is, I mean,
I feel like ghosts are probably a little more likely. No?
Are they though?
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
I don't think they're any more likely. Come at me, ghost. I think they're in the realm of the paranormal, and
yes,
but it's not about likely or not right now.
I understand that, but why is ghosts taboo, but Folie à Deux accepted? Because it's a scientific term. Like, this is science being like, oh, it's a shared hallucination between two people, the combined madness of two, or whatever it actually like translates to. But the thing is, like, you can have that and be like, we can never prove this is actually a thing, but this is what we're calling it, and this is what you have to call it, and this is what it is. But if we're like, ghosts exist, like, nah, there's no proof of that. Science hasn't, we haven't scienced ghosts up just yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's a double standard. It feels like a double standard.
That's what I'm saying, that they both should be in this genre because they're both equal. We have documented and spoken about it many times, a case of Folie à Deux.
Let's hear it.
The guy that was thinking about what his dog was thinking about when his dog was thinking about raw meat.
That's not Folie à Deux, though.
That's shared hallucination.
It's not a hallucination. That is, what was it called? Transference?
Telepathy?
That's called transference. You're transferring your moments, your dream to this dude through physical touch.
What if it wasn't transference?
What
if
else could it be?
Telepathy.
But see, how
it's almost the same.
I don't think so. Because you can't have that if you're not physically touching.
Transference is like, it feels like an action.
Yes.
So the dog would be like, I want him to think about my raw meat that I'm dreaming about.
Phrasing. So bad. But no. Also, Scott, grab that clip. Want him to think about wow. Show's really getting off the rails. It's fine. No, I think my own personal experiences with what I believe were transference were when I was, sleeping next to Atlas or something like that, and he's like cuddled up against me. That's the only time I'd have these backwards, crazy ass dreams where I'm like, there's no way this is me thinking of this stuff. Like fences made of worms and whatnot. Like, there's no way that's my brain, because I know what worms are and I know what a fence is. My brain wouldn't be like, hey, make that fence out of worms. But him, when he's like 6 months old or something like that, no idea.
That explains why kids see such weird things that they think are real.
Or they could be real. I don't know if the worm fence exists out there in the ether. I just know that for sure my brain knows how to differentiate between worms and fences.
See, I'm still, like, I think we're arguing, especially with transference and Folie à Deux. I'm like, they're both words.
Wow. That is what they have in common, yes.
And people can put their definitions on them, and they can say one is not documented and the other is, but I think they're pretty similar. And in this genre, or the stuff we talk about at this point, a lot of things are not, just because somebody told a story doesn't mean it's documented to me.
Okay. But why is one taken more seriously than the other?
Well, I think Folie à Deux is very hard to prove. Maybe, sure. Like, I think ghosts are too, but people have experienced this, they say, are ghosts.
Far more often than they have Folie à Deux experiences.
But yeah. I think it's the same thing.
But if it's
in their mind both times.
The interesting thing is, with Folie à Deux, you will have a friend with you and you're like, did you see that crazy thing that I saw? And they're like, yes, I did. And then the people are like, no, sightings. You guys are both just hallucinating, turns out. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, Folie à Deux is just like it's a Band-Aid to be like, oh no, two people witnessed a crazy paranormal experience.
I get what you're saying. I think we're making too much out of Folie à Deux.
I just like saying it. That was a great Fall Out Boy album, and I don't care if you don't agree with me. It's probably one of their best. All right? Yeah, no, fight me. All right? From Under the Cork Tree, great. Sure.
I'm
Folie
à
à Deux, great freaking album.
I'm fine with Fall Out Boy.
As you should be.
Creed, no Fall Out Boy.
Okay.
But anyway.
For someone that doesn't like Creed, you sure do like to bring them up.
Dude, I'm getting tortured by Creed. They're everywhere.
I'm going to try to get Scott Stapp on the show.
They're like hunting me down.
I believe it.
It's like, Psychological torture. Anyway, back to the story.
That was the end.
I know. What do you think about that?
It's one of my favorite time slip stories.
It is. It's one of mine too. My understanding of that story is couldn't be Marie Antoinette because she was wearing stuff that Marie Antoinette wouldn't have worn in that time period. But
What, shades of green?
I don't know. Semantics. I'm no fashion consultant from the 1700s, especially royal fashion.
Well, thank God, man. You understand how ugly fashion was? You understand the powdered wigs and all that crap? Like, no way.
Yeah.
No way. Imagine trying to rock one of those today, like trying to bring it back, be the guy that tries to bring it back. Like, does that asshole have a powdered wig on his head? He sure does.
Rich people, man. Rich people.
Indubitably. Yes. It's fine. Anyway, what do you guys think about this Versailles incident, huh? Folie Deux or a paranormal experience?
Definitely not
Slipping
a
through
paranormal.
time.
It was not a time slip. That's impossible. What I wanted to say is the only thing I could think that would make a time slip like that possible, time slip in general, is Anna Folie Deux, is if they tapped into some kind of energy that normally we can't, experience, that made them see the past. Not that they were necessarily there, but maybe they saw the past.
Yeah, it's always tricky when you get to those. The stories they're very believable for me. I just want to understand how it happens. Like what is the purpose for it happening,
To me, if there can be a possibility of a stone tape, there could be a possibility that you could slip into that and experience it like you were there.
Like you're in the cassette player with the stone tape.
Well, you're in the recording.
Whoa.
And maybe you're not really in it, but you experience in a way that makes you basically build what you're seeing and experiencing and feeling in your, wherever you feel those things.
In your loins, usually. My question would be, the people that aren't in that experience, do they see you still? And do you look like a lunatic? If you're like, and there's like nothing there, you're like looking around like, whoa. And everyone's like, what is this clown looking at?
I mean, if you really think about it, most of us look like lunatics sometimes. So maybe somebody's just actually seeing something cool.
That does track. If that helicopter doesn't fly away at some point, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to be the guy they're looking for.
It's not worth it, man.
Pull a Walter White on these people. I am the man who knocks or whatever. Great show, though. Anyway, moving on. Time slips on Bolt Street. Bolt Street is a bustling pedestrian area in the heart of Liverpool, known for its eclectic mix of shops, cafes, and a distinct sense of character.
I feel like I know this one, too.
We'll find out. But beneath its modern surface lies one of the most intriguing mysteries in all of England. What some believe is a hotspot for spontaneous, unintentional time travel. Over the years, numerous individuals have come forward claiming to have slipped back in time while walking the street, often momentarily experiencing life in a completely different era before snapping back into the present. These accounts, though often brief, share consistent details that are hard to dismiss, and they've earned Bold Street a quiet reputation as one of the strangest places in the UK. One of the most famous accounts involves an off-duty police officer named Frank, classic, who was shopping with his wife in the 1990s. As they parted ways for a few minutes, his wife heading to Dylan's bookstore while he browsed elsewhere, Frank turned onto Bold Street to catch up with her. But as he walked down the street, he noticed something strange. The cars seemed older. The noise levels were different, and people's clothing didn't fit the 1990s. Crossing the street, he glanced up to see a shop called Crips, and across the way, Bloods. No, just kidding, guys. Chill. Calm down. All right. Called Crips, where Dylan's should have been. The store looked like it belonged in the 1950s, right down to the window display and the goods for sale inside. Frank stood frozen for a moment, confused and disoriented. Everything around him looked dated, but perfectly real. He could hear the sounds of horses nearby, and the street had gone quiet. Even the air smelled different. It smells like ass from all the horses nearby.
Well, no, this was the 90s, so it wasn't like it was the 1700s in London where it really smelled like ass.
He experienced this in the 90s, but the time slip was the 50s or something like that.
Okay, still wouldn't have been as gross smelling as it London has smelled in the past. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were there, Christian. I didn't realize that you were walking into Crips as well and giving up on your Bloods. We know who you rock with. It's fine. Do you think we get shot for saying that? We don't have any gang members listen to the show, right?
I don't know, man. Is that even a thing anymore?
Hey, how wide of a net do we cast out there? Are you a gang member?
You can use a fake name if you are.
Yeah, but also let us interview and have just the strangest episode of this podcast of all time. It's fine. Frank stood frozen for a moment, confused and disoriented. Everything around him looked dated but perfectly real. He could hear the sounds of horses nearby, and the street had gone quiet. Even the air smelled different. As he tried to process what he was seeing, a young woman walked past him and entered Cripps. She appeared equally confused, scanning the shop with wide eyes. Then, without warning, the entire scene shifted back to the modern day. Cripps was gone, and Dylan's bookstore... I really had to fight that one. I was going to do it again. And Dylan's bookstore stood in its place. The woman stumbled out, visibly shaken, and confirmed to Frank that she had also seen the old-fashioned shop interior and felt as though they had both stepped into another time. This experience isn't isolated. Other time slip accounts on Bold Street share similar patterns. A sudden shift in sensory detail, confusion or disorientation, and the unmistakable presence of a time period decades in the past. Witnesses often describe old-fashioned vehicles, shops that no longer exist, outdated currency, or people dressed in vintage clothing. Maybe just ran into some hipsters. Anyway, importantly,
It is England.
these experiences are often fleeting, sometimes lasting only moments, but they feel entirely real to those who go through them. Another notable story involves a man named Sean who in the early 2000s claimed he was walking toward a local HMV music store on Bold Street when he noticed something off. The shop was no longer there. Instead, he found himself facing a storefront with signage he didn't recognize. People were dressed in 1950s fashion and everything had a muted yellowish tone. Gross. As he looked around, he saw period-specific advertisements and merchandise.
What period?
The 50s.
Okay.
Just like in Frank's case, the scene lasted less than a minute before reality appeared to snap back, and everything returned to normal. He later researched the store he'd seen and discovered it had in fact existed on Bold Street during the mid-20th century. There's no conclusive scientific explanation for these occurrences, but several theories have been proposed. Some suggest that Bold Street lies on a naturally occurring fault in time, a kind of temporal thin spot where layers of the past and present briefly converge.
That's very timey-wimey.
That is very tiny-whiny. Others argue that the experiences could be the result of altered states of consciousness triggered by environmental factors like electromagnetic fields, infrasound, or even undiagnosed neurological phenomena. But even skeptics admit that the consistency across eyewitness accounts, people who have never met, describing the same kinds of details, makes Bold Street phenomenon difficult to dismiss entirely. Interestingly, the time slips seem to happen without warning and cannot be recreated intentionally. You don't say. You don't say that I can't just go to Bold Street and witness the past. That's too bad. What a shame. This further complicates efforts to study them under controlled conditions. Paranormal researchers who have investigated the area report no consistent electromagnetic anomalies or environmental triggers, yet the stories persist, and new accounts continue to surface. Many believers see this as evidence that time is not as linear or rigid as we've been led to believe, that perhaps under rare and specific circumstances, it's possible to momentarily step outside of it. Locals in Liverpool are aware of Bold Street's eerie reputation, though it's not a topic that dominates daily conversation. For many, it's just another strange story in a city rich with history and myth. But for those who've experienced the time slip firsthand, the memory is vivid and often life-changing. They describe it not as a dream or a hallucination, but as something entirely real, an involuntary journey through time. Whether Bold Street truly sits atop a natural time portal or simply provokes unusual brain activity in a small group of people, the phenomenon remains one of the most enduring and fascinating examples of alleged time slips in modern folklore. And if even one of the stories is true, it raises profound questions about the nature of time, consciousness, and the reality we think we understand.
Okay, before I blow your mind with the new theory, what do you think?
I think that was a lot of words, and I could really wet my whistle. Now that has been taken care of, I have no thoughts.
Okay. Well, mine isn't like, Scott's breaking stuff here.
Oops.
I kind of oversold.
Yeah, I feel like my mind's not going to be blown. Probably just run-of-the-mill explanation that I'm used to. But
Here's one I haven't heard before, and I don't know if it's possible, but it could be. Carbon monoxide poisoning.
You've never heard of carbon monoxide poisoning?
Not in this setting, like something that might cause hallucinations or
Like when you're
disorientation.
walking outside?
Maybe
that's got to be a shit ton of carbon monoxide, no?
But I would think in some cities there's dead spots where the air doesn't flow properly. You know, it's kind of a reach.
You think Bold Street might be one of these?
Never been there yet, but no, I think these are fun stories. I don't believe in time slips, surprisingly.
That is surprising for someone who half of this podcast duration is usually, if you go back in time ourselves, it was time as a flat circle ad nauseum, you know?
It still is. That's the way the universe works.
Well, if it's a flat circle, then you should be able to visit wherever you'd like. Because it's happening right now, you know?
Obviously, there are powers, stronger powers, or rules that keep us from doing that because we got to find Jesus. Yeah. Humans can't even handle like regular media, let alone, being able to time slip and all that kind of, it would just be too overwhelming. We'd all go crazy.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if I want these people going back in time right now, like the people that we live with. It's
I mean, as a history nerd, I don't see this time as any different as far as people go to, 1950s, 1700s, 3200 BC. Humans are humans. They're all, we have our strengths and our weaknesses, and it's really easy for our weaknesses to get triggered sometimes, depending on what's going on around us.
Sure.
So I don't know, man. I wouldn't want to go back. I don't know where I was going with that, but I love time slips. I love the thought of, I've always loved time travel, since I was a kid, the thought of it.
It reels me in every once in a while.
Yeah. I would love on some level for this to be true, even if it's more of you're experiencing the past, but not really there. Your subconscious or your soul or whatever is interacting within us with the world around us that we're not really in control of or understand, that could possibly be.
Sure.
So,
and why not?
If your consciousness doesn't always sit somewhere within your body, you could experience things from the past or future, or
and
creatures that aren't there any longer, but may have been there at one time, or may live in the spiritual realm. I don't know.
Passed into the spiritual realm for a second. That was a great soundbite. Bring that one back.
Come at me, Ghost.
That'll do.
Still haven't come at me.
Let's get into the Kersey Village mystery. You like that? I didn't realize all of these were practically outside of America.
That's fine. I love spending time in England and Europe.
Suffolk, England?
Is that where this one's?
It is indeed. Tucked away in the Suffolk County countryside lies the picturesque village of Kersey. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Kersey. Way too heavy on that. With its medieval charm, cobblestone streets, and timber-framed cottages, Kersey already feels like a step back in time. But in one bizarre incident from the 1950s, it may have become just that, literally. This strange account involves a group of 4 British Air Force officers who claimed to have stumbled into what appeared to be an earlier version of the village, complete with sights and sounds from a time long past. The story begins with the officers on a weekend countryside drive through Suffolk, looking for somewhere to stop and stretch their legs. They saw a sign for the village of Kersey and turned off the main road. As they approached the village, they were immediately struck by how quiet everything seemed. There were no people in sight, no movement in the windows, and the modern noise in the 1950s, cars, airplanes, radios, had vanished. The village appeared almost frozen in time. When the men got out and began walking through the village, they noticed more peculiarities. The buildings, while old-fashioned, looked strangely new, as though they had just been constructed. There were no signs of weathering, rot, or despair. No electric lines were visible, and modern amenities were entirely absent. What's more, they noticed an unnatural stillness in the air. No bird song, no breeze, just an overwhelming sense that they were being watched, even though they saw no one. One of the men reportedly remarked that the whole place felt wrong, like a stage set or a model village. As they walked further, things became even more unsettling. They noticed smoke rising from chimneys and the faint smell of wood fires suggesting habitation, yet not a single person appeared. The tension among them grew until, without speaking, they all seemed to agree it was time to leave. They returned to their vehicle and drove away in silence, each of them uneasy but unsure exactly why. Only later, when recounting the experience to others, did they realize the deeper strangeness of what they had seen. Historical photographs and records of Kersey didn't match what they remembered. The buildings were arranged slightly differently, and a few notable structures they saw that day no longer existed, or never had, according to local archives. Perhaps even more unsettling was the fact that some of the homes had thatched roofs and wooden beams that had long since been replaced by the 20th century. While no definitive data was given during their visit, architectural historians speculated, based on their descriptions, that the version of Kersey they walked through could have been from the 16th or 17th century. The complete absence of people and the anachronistic details they observed gave the story an eerie credibility. They were trained observers, military men, not prone to fantasy, and they each described the same surreal details independently. Is this helicopter still at it, or is that a plane?
That one I can actually hear. It sounds like a helicopter.
Yeah. Wow. Go find them already, you know? What's the deal with that big spotlight? I guess it's still bright outside.
And it's Alaska.
Thanks, Summer. Yeah. Believers point to this event as a classic case of a time slip, one of the clearest examples of a group experiencing an involuntary shift in time simultaneously. The fact that 4 people shared the same experience without any sign of hallucination or external cause lends considerable weight to the account. Paranormal researchers have since taken an interest in Kersey, with some suggesting that the village itself may be situated near a temporal fold, or naturally occurring time anomaly. Skeptics, of course, have scoffed at the mention of temporal folds.
I totally did.
Have offered alternative explanations, saying, well, maybe it's your brain, or
that's not what I said, but...
Or Folie a quad.
I feel like, what was it? Temporal what?
Fold?
Yeah, that sounds like it should be in the same category as Folie Deux.
Temporal folds, though, that's like bending time, no?
That's not real. Yet. It's just a...
I feel like that's a lot more likely than, you know...
You can feel that all you want to, but there's no way to do it.
Who was the one that was going hard on that? Was that Einstein?
I don't know, man. I just feel like this whole episode, we're in a Doctor Who episode, so it's really weird to me.
A Doctor Whom. Anyway.
I'm enjoying it. I like Doctor Who. I like England, but...
I despise both of those things. Just kidding. I don't despise England. I despise Doctor Who, though. No real reason, just to piss people off, mainly. It's fine. Some claim the men may have stumbled into a set for a period film or a theatrical production, though no such activity was recorded in the area. That's what the skeptics say, Christian. Oh, they must have accidentally oopsie-daisied their way onto a stage and not realized it, and everyone was too afraid of them. They hid in the buildings.
That's kind of weird.
That is very weird. Others suggest it could have been a vivid shared delusion. Aha! A form of folie a quatre. Nailed it. Though such occurrences are exceedingly rare and typically involve people under psychological distress, which these men were not. Even now, locals in Kersey know of the tale, though it's rarely discussed in anything more than a hushed tone. The village remains quiet and charming, much as it has for centuries, but the 1950s incident continues to haunt its history. Whether the officers truly stepped back in time or simply experienced a powerful illusion, the Kersey Village mystery remains one of the most compelling and lesser-known time-slip stories on record. Hell yeah.
I feel like, I don't know if it'd be Folie Deux, but I feel like there was a time, I was probably 18, 19, where a friend and I, well, there were 3 of us.
Just the 3 of us.
Me and my friends, Tommy and Brian. We were all laying down on the apartment floor.
Ooh.
Mine slightly altered, or heavily altered.
Thinking of questionable things.
But I got this distinct feeling somebody was standing over me, and it was creepy.
Yeah.
So I jumped up and looked around. Nobody was standing over me. Right as my friend did the same thing because something was standing over him. Did we share an experience? Did we slip somewhere else?
I feel like...
Or was it just, you got to throw it all out because of what we were under the influence
of? You jumped first, yeah?
Yeah.
And then after
Well, it was like we were both sitting up at the same time. He was out of the corner of my eye because I was like looking behind me.
Huh. Interesting.
But it was like, you know, I was more of a believer back then, but I tend to look at these things skeptically in a lot of cases, or explain them away, as you know. But this one distinctively made me feel creepy because somebody was like basically had their legs like spread apart, standing right over me.
Oh, yeah.
And the same experience with my friend that was laid out on the floor 20 feet from me.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another groundbreaking theory that's not groundbreaking.
It better be Folie Quattro.
No, it's multiverse. Like some of these stories could be not necessarily time slipping, but slipping into another you. You ever think of that?
Oh, don't mind if I do. Yeah. I don't think. I think the multiverse isn't really.
I don't think it's
I don't think it's a
accessible
thing.
like that, but it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, if ghosts can be real, the multiverse can be real too.
No.
This is why.
Nah.
Like this
It's fine.
genre, sometimes people are like, no.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you believe this crazy thing? That's
Yeah.
not crazy.
Everything I think and nothing that you do, Christian. That's the way it works around these parts. All right. Now the multiverse just gets too tricky. It's a little messy.
I feel like multiverse is fine for like comic books and movies, but any more than that, you basically got to be a brilliant engineer to
or mentally unstable to even attempt it.
you could be both at the same time. I think it was John
known
Nash
several.
that was like that. A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
That was a great movie.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Book was nothing like that movie, but the book was good too.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
It's a long ass book with a lot of math stuff in it.
that sounds like a math book, and tell you what, not a fan of those.
And
so
and it's
steer
not
clear.
It's not the math any of us ever took.
Yeah. What was that author thinking? Throwing heavy math into a book.
Dude, that was crazy ass math.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, people are going to read that and be like, man, I can't do this.
But the guy was a mathematician.
I didn't realize there was homework in this book. I just wanted to read, damn it. Anyway, I think we may only have time for one more, so I may have to skip the Scottish one, the Battlefield Echo. We'll circle back around to that at some point.
Sometimes you're a little Scottish,
I'm a lot Scottish.
but sometimes you're a little Scottish.
It ain't like that.
I believe it is. See, I just did what you did.
Okay.
It's like, this thing is true. Don't listen to me.
Wow. Refuted yourself.
I gotta pee.
All right. Well, can you hold it for one more story?
I can.
Do you think you can?
Yes, I think I can.
I think I can. What are we, the little engine that could? It's fine.
I'm the little engine that did.
Wow. Weird flex, but okay. Guys, we're going to close it out with the Montélimar Vanishing Hotel.
I feel like you're like purposely butchering these words now.
That's how you pronounce it. Montélimar,
Oh, okay.
France.
The way you said it kind of quickly.
Did it sound douchey and a
It
little
sounded like
bougie?
one word.
Yeah, it is. Montélimar. It's a place in France. It's one word. Montélimar. Montélimar.
How do you spell the Lamar part?
Fudufafa. Limar. Monte with a little line above it. Limar. One word. Montélimar. Christian,
I'm
eat
doing it.
croissants.
I
all
can
right?
do
I
whatever.
know what I'm doing.
I can do what I want.
My croissant. It's fine. Getting a little into the Middle Eastern territory with that one, but it's
No,
fine.
I don't think you were. I don't know what that accent was. It was like,
We could explore it further.
it was bad television.
French?
It just didn't, it sounded like an American doing an accent.
Wow. Almost as if it was an American doing an accent. Christian Cat, you just
Hey, at least it
just
wasn't,
bring me down.
at least it wasn't your Mario accent.
I can do Mario accent perfectly. All right. But the people aren't here for that. They're here for the Vanishing Hotel of Montélimar, France. France. Is that better?
It's the next season of White Lotus.
Okay. In the heart of southeastern France, the charming town of Montélimar is known for its medieval architecture and, of course, its world-famous croissants. Just kidding, it's nougat, apparently. But
Ooh.
behind the cobbled streets and the fragrant markets lie a strange and chilling mystery that has puzzled both locals and travelers alike for decades. The incident revolves around a hotel that quite literally seemed to vanish without a trace, leaving its guests bewildered and some even questioning their own memories. The story dates back to the late 1950s when a French couple decided to visit Montélimar during a summer holiday. After a long day of sightseeing, they found themselves looking for a place to stay. They were directed to a quaint traditional hotel in the town center, tucked away on a quiet side street. The hotel was described as welcoming with an elegant facade and vintage signs. It appeared to be a well-established family-run inn with a comfortable atmosphere. The couple checked in, were given their room key, and settled in for the night. However, when they went to leave the next morning, things took a bizarre turn. They stepped out into the street ready to head out for breakfast, only to find that the hotel had completely disappeared. The building where the hotel had stood was now vacant. There was no sign of the inn, no indication that it had ever existed. The couple stood there, dumbfounded, convinced they had made some sort of mistake. Perhaps they had stayed in the wrong part of the town.
Perhaps they drank too much.
Wow. Classic milquetoast explanations from the skeptic.
A little bit too much of the French Bordeaux.
They checked their room key, but there was no doubt they had been at this hotel just the night before. Perplexed, they asked a passerby for directions to the hotel. To their surprise, the local had never heard of it. The couple then approached a nearby shopkeeper who was just as confused. The location where the hotel once stood seemed to be an empty lot now, though the surrounding buildings appeared entirely unchanged. No one in the area had any recollection of the hotel, and the couple's attempts to explain their overnight stay were met with bewildered stares. After wandering around town trying to find some answers, they came across a historical archive. Searching through old documents, the couple was eventually shown an old map of Montélimar. To their astonishment, the hotel they had stayed in did appear on the map, but only as a structure that had long been demolished, supposedly during the 1920s. How could they have stayed in a building that had been gone for more than 30 years? The couple left Montélimar that day with no clear answers, but with a story that defied all logic and explanation. Over the years, others had come forward with similar accounts, claiming to have had experiences at the same hotel, only to find it vanished when they tried to return. Some recall the building being situated on the very same street, while others describe it in slightly different locations. Yet each person describes the hotel as being authentic, perfectly modern for its time, and often a place of warmth and comfort. This event, like many other time-slip phenomenon, defies easy explanation. Was the hotel simply the victim of a collective illusion, or mass remembering? Was it possible that the couple had inadvertently stumbled into an older, previously forgotten version of Montélimar, one from another time entirely?
Nope.
Could this have been a case of spontaneous time anomaly?
What the?
That sounds fun. With the couple accidentally walking through a temporary rift in time. Some believers in the paranormal suggest that this may be a form of time loop where an earlier version of the hotel briefly reappeared, only to disappear once again. In these theories, the people who visited the hotel might have been subconsciously pulled into a time bubble, momentarily living in the past, only to return to the present day when the bubble collapsed. The idea fits within the broader category of time-slip stories where individuals experience flashes of the past or future, often for brief and mysterious periods. Skeptics, however, offer alternative explanations, you don't say. Could the couple have stayed in a different hotel, perhaps one that resembled the vanished building in its details and appearance, only to later confuse it with the historical hotel in their memories? Could the seemingly vanishing building be part of a psychological effect, like a dissociative experience wherein the couple's minds unconsciously filled in gaps in their memories? While no conclusive explanation has been found, the Montélimar vanishing hotel incident remains a strange chapter in the pseudo-history of time-slip lore. It serves as a reminder that despite the modern world's obsession with rationality, there are still mysteries that science has yet to fully explain. Perhaps in the quiet corners of the world, time itself is more fluid and less predictable than we realize. Now,
What about reincarnation?
What about reincarnation?
Maybe these people had experienced this, whatever it was before, not just in this story, but in the previous story, in another life. And then they just kind of...
The memories were triggered when they walked into
when they went back to the same area in this life. And as it was mentioned at the end there, their subconscious filled in the blanks. And it just seemed like it was a realistic thing that they'd been through instead of like a form of deja vu.
I think that's deja intendu. No, that's heard before. Deja vu, perhaps.
I feel like we're just going through a lot of made-up words.
No, these are all different phrases for.
I'm just
similar
wondering,
things.
is our genre all made up?
No.
'Cause there's a lot of made-up words. Temporal rift.
That's not a made-up word, and it's 2 words. Turns out
Is it a real thing, or is it a real thing in science fiction?
the 2 can coexist happily. Christian,
Can they? A temporal rift?
Mhm.
Okay.
why not?
I don't study temporal
No
anything
one's
very
gonna look
often.
it up, Christian. You just got to believe in your heart. That's it. No one's gonna go
I don't
and like
believe in
Google
my
it right
heart.
now. They're not gonna be like, "Hey, I need to check this out. Make sure we fact check these weirdos." No, they're just here to have a good time, and we're giving it to them. We're giving it to them real good, Christian. All right.
Best I've ever given.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, this story reminds me of
Bullshit.
no, not that. There was a story that I forget what podcast it was on. It was one that I'm not going to recommend because I don't like the host. But there's a story of these 2 girls. I want to say they were looking for a place, like a for rent type situation. So they go visit this house, and this dude is pretty much showing them around and being like, "Oh, this is where you're gonna stay," and it's like this basement, like ugly. It looked like there was no windows, there was nothing like that. I'm pretty sure there's a hole in the closet where you could watch, and so it's just the heebie-jeebie vibes all the way around, right? And when they get out of it, I want to say she tries coming back or something like that, like tries showing her friend the house, and it wasn't there. I've heard like a handful of these stories where it's like you experience something traumatic in this place, and then when you try to return to it, it's just not there anymore. And that drives me insane because what is that? You know, what is that?
It's called
Made it up.
a
Yeah.
mental issue.
I know that that's what you call it, but I'm actually asking people out there now, like, what does someone have a better explanation for this? Because I have no explanation for this.
I've gone through like 3 or 4 explanations.
Okay,
this
apologies. Let me
episode.
reword it. Does anyone have a good explanation for this that explains this to a weird
A guy
ding
that-
dong like myself? You
Yeah,
know?
a guy that believes that Folie is fake, but ghosts are real.
It's not a guy that believes that Folie is fake.
Is it? Who told you this?
It's made up. It's a made up thing.
Most words are made up.
Absolutely they are, but this is a made up thing for something that actually happened.
Like a temporal rift or that other temporal thing we were
I
talking
gave a pretty great analogy when I said it was like a Band-Aid over a paranormal experience. Where you're like, oh no, you guys didn't see a ghost. You both had brain issues.
See, I feel like
You know?
a temporal rift. What was the other temporal thing earlier?
Fold. It was a fold.
I thought there was something else too, but
But isn't the fold how you travel through space? Isn't that how they do the
that's
UFOs?
the theory.
Isn't that what they talk about UFOs though?
That's the theory, though.
That you're like bending time over on itself,
Yeah,
right?
But there's no. If we could do that, we would have already done it.
Hey, Christian, well, maybe we have done it. You know, we haven't. We're a couple of dinguses in a garage. We haven't done anything productive outside of putting this show together. But maybe I don't. There's too many stories. I'm going to say this. There's too many stories, dude. There's too many stories out there of these things happening for it not to be a thing. And I just want to know. I'm so curious. Someone tell me.
I'm going to tell you what this all is because she used a key word there, and that word is stories.
No.
Come at me, Ghost.
Yeah, I don't know. But here's the deal. We need everyone else to share their thoughts on this stuff. Give us your opinions on these things because I know for sure that I'm confused, but also wildly fascinated by the subject.
I am fascinated, and another reason why we want you guys to share your views is because
We can steal your ideas.
not just that, but we have a belief system. Each one of us do that's not anything like other people's. So Follow sometimes
Jesus.
you're going to see things from a different perspective, and that might shine light on what's really going on or help us discover a new perspective or change our perspective or help our perspective. It's just nice to have different ideas.
You guys heard it. You guys heard it from the man himself. Make it happen. Let's all combine our weird thoughts into one super weird thought, and let's figure this out together, huh?
I try to time slip every day, and it just hasn't worked for me yet.
I know. I'm like, damn it, I'm still at work. What's happening? When does it end? Guys, it's fine. We will catch you right back here next week where we're talking about something else entirely. Or maybe we're going to be right back here again in the past, slipping through time as we do.
I'm going to Suffolk.
He's going to Suffolk, fucks, or whatever. Suffolks.
That's not what I said.
That's what he said. You heard it. Everyone heard it.
I said Suffolk. Don't listen to me.
Anyway, guys.
That's not what my cult says.
Thank you.
I approve of this message.
Join
Follow
the Christian
cult. Follow Jesus.
That's the Christian cult. There you go. We did it. Yay. Woo. All right.
We just had a time slip there. That one was too perfect.
That is too perfect. We'll see you guys later. I know both Christian and myself have to pee, so we can't keep this going any further. We're sorry. Goodbye.
Next week, though.
Next week. Yes. Goodbye.
Bigfoot is stalking by your window. Dogman is scratching at your door. Ghosties are walking up and down your halls at night, and the headman is coming back for more. Your name is Christian. You love a can of beans, and you're the wettest blanket skeptic this world has ever seen. You're almost always wrong. It's quite an impressive streaky. This song has rambled on too long. Welcome to the freaky deaky. Your name is Christian. You're named ironically because the only belief you have can be found in a can of beans. You're almost never right, and now you get roasted weekly. This song has rambled on too long. Welcome to the freaky deaky. Also ghosts exist, just an FYI. Aliens are feeling blue. The Ouija demon's lonely 'cause they believe in you.